Imagine scrolling crypto news at midnight and seeing Cardano's Midnight network launches with a bang. Suddenly, Cardano ADA isn't just about slow and steady development. It's making headlines with a brand new Midnight network and its Night token. The buzz is real. The token's price doubled shortly after launch, nearing a $1 billion valuation as major exchanges like OKX, Bybit, and MEX opened trading. Crypto Twitter is ablaze, and I'm thinking, wait, what did I miss? Is Cardano about to shed its conservative image and dive into the wild world of privacy coins? Or is there something deeper going on here? I had to find out and take you along on this discovery journey. But hold on a second. Before we get too excited about skyrocketing tokens and shiny new networks, let's get something straight. This might shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all the money you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, disclaimer out of the way. You knew it was coming. Now we can focus on what truly matters here, not just the token hype, but why Midnight exists and how it changes Cardano's game. So, grab a snack, maybe hop into our free educational Discord if you want to chat about this later, and let's unravel Midnight together, with a bit of light humor and storytelling along the ride. Let me set the stage. I've been following Cardano for a while. You know, the slow and steady tortoise of crypto that focuses on peer-reviewed research and methodical upgrades. I staked my ADA in community pools. Shout out to the Cheek stake pool. Yes, our very own little contribution to Cardano's decentralized network, and watched as Cardano delivered smart contracts, scalability solutions, and more. But one thing always nagged: privacy. In a blockchain world full of transparency, how do we handle sensitive data? For the longest time, if you wanted privacy in crypto, you had to venture into coins like Monero or Zcash. Great for anonymity, but not exactly friendly with regulators or easy to integrate with everyday apps. Cardano didn't have a native privacy solution, and that felt like a missing puzzle piece. So, when I heard Charles Hoskinson, Cardano's founder, announce Midnight as a first fourth-generation cryptocurrency, basically calling it a huge leap forward, and brag that it's already a billion-dollar ecosystem heading to a $10 billion ecosystem, I was skeptical and intrigued. Big claims, Charles? Is Midnight really that revolutionary? Time to dig in. Midnight is often described as a partner chain to Cardano. Think of it as a specialized sibling blockchain that complements Cardano rather than a completely separate project. Its mission? Practical privacy. Midnight is input-output global. IOG's attempt to give Cardano a programmable privacy layer, one that uses advanced cryptography, zero-knowledge proofs, to verify transactions without revealing all their details. In non-geek speak, Midnight is like Cardano's privacy-conscious alter ego. Charles Hoskinson and the team have been cooking this up for over 6 years. Yup, this idea has been simmering since around 2019. There were false starts and multiple tech prototypes, but they kept at it until they found a recipe that might just work. And now it's finally live, not just on paper. Midnight is here to answer a big question. Can we have blockchain privacy and compliance at the same time? Can we protect sensitive data on-chain without making regulators freak out or sacrificing the auditable nature of blockchain? Okay, so how does Midnight actually achieve privacy? This is where it gets really interesting. Instead of copying older privacy coins that go full ninja, Hiding everything but making auditing a nightmare, Midnight uses a dual state architecture. Imagine the blockchain has two parallel ledgers running side by side. Public state. One ledger is completely public, just like Cardano or Bitcoin. All the normal transaction data that needs to be visible, contract code, basic transaction info, goes here. Private state. The other ledger is encrypted and hidden. This stores sensitive details that users might not want to expose to the world. These two states coexist. They're like two halves of a whole. One half is a glass window, the other is a vault. But here's the magic. Midnight uses zero-knowledge proofs, ZK-SNARKs, as a bridge between the two. In practice, you can prove that the secret stuff in the vault satisfies whatever rules or conditions needed without opening the vault. It's as if you have a locked treasure chest and you give someone a mathematically unforgeable certificate saying, "I promise what's inside meets the requirements." And the network believes the certificate without ever seeing inside the chest. This selective disclosure is what they mean by practical privacy. Midnight lets you and dApp developers choose exactly which parts of a transaction are public and which remain private. For example, a Midnight-based app could make the transaction amounts and parties private, but still put a proof on the public ledger that these funds aren't illicit or user X is authorized. You reveal just enough to satisfy whoever needs to verify something, be it an auditor, business partner, or smart contract, and nothing more. Why is this a big deal? Because it opens up use cases that were impossible on fully transparent chains. Healthcare. Imagine proving you're eligible for an insurance payout without exposing your entire medical record. Midnight can do that. Finance. Picture a DeFi loan where you prove your credit score or collateral value without broadcasting your whole balance sheet to the world. Identity. Issue a digital ID or credential that you can show selectively, like proving you're over 18 to a bar without revealing your name and address. Supply chain. Verify a product meets regulatory compliance, say an organic certification or trade secret info, without leaking all the proprietary data behind it. Voting, Josh, governance. Conduct an on-chain vote where ballots are secret, but you can still verify the vote count was valid and no one voted twice. In short, Midnight's dual state model offers a best of both worlds. You get the transparency and security of a public blockchain and the confidentiality of a private database when needed. It's like having an invisibility cloak that you can toggle on and off, with cryptographic guarantees that nobody abused the cloak while it was on. And crucially, you can turn that cloak off for regulators or auditors by giving them special keys or proofs. That's the regulatory compatibility piece. Midnight is designed so that if a law or regulation requires you to show something, you can show it. But it's your choice to reveal, not the network's default. This approach has even been dubbed rational privacy by the Midnight team, the idea that privacy can be balanced with reason and rules. Now, if your head is spinning a bit from the tech, you're not alone. Zero-knowledge proofs and dual states sound complex, and under the hood, they are. But here's where Midnight pulls another clever trick to make all this accessible. Enter Compact, Midnight's very own smart contract language. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh great, another programming language I have to learn about. But stick with me. This one is actually pretty cool, even if you're not a coder. Compact is TypeScript inspired, meaning it looks and feels similar to TypeScript/JavaScript, one of the most common programming languages on the planet. Why is that important? Because it lowers the barrier for developers. Instead of needing a PhD in cryptography or having to write clunky circuit code, as is typical when writing zero-knowledge programs, developers can write normal-looking smart contract code in a familiar syntax. The Compact compiler then does the heavy lifting. It automatically turns that code into the ZK-SNARK circuits and magic proofs behind the scenes. Think of Compact as the translator between regular devs and advanced cryptography. The developer says, "Here's my app logic, and these data fields should stay private. Those can be public." And Compact forces them to be explicit about that. It forces devs to mark what's private versus public on-chain. That's brilliant, because it means privacy isn't an afterthought. It's baked into the app from the get-go. No accidentally leaking data because you forgot. The language won't let you proceed unless you specify the privacy rules. For example, a developer building a Midnight dApp might write something like private let salary equals input salary. Public let is eligible equals salary greater than 50,000. Simplified pseudocode, but you get the idea. In this snippet, the actual salary is treated as private, never revealed on-chain. But the contract can output a public boolean of whether that salary exceeds 50,000. So you could prove, yes, I make above a certain amount, without revealing the exact number. Compact makes this pattern straightforward, whereas on other platforms, doing that requires deep cryptographic know-how. By making zero-knowledge development accessible to non-cryptographers, Compact is a game changer. Millions of existing JavaScript/TypeScript developers could potentially jump into writing privacy-preserving apps without starting from scratch. The learning curve flattens, and if Midnight wants to gain adoption beyond a tiny niche of ZK experts, this is pretty much a must. They knew that, and delivered a tool to make it happen. From a storytelling perspective, it's like Midnight not only built a high-tech, secure vault, the dual-state chain, but also handed out the blueprint and power tools so that everyday builders can come and start using that vault for whatever innovative ideas they have. You don't have to invent new cryptography. You can focus on your application logic and let Midnight's tech handle the privacy part. Now, let's shift gears from tech to tokens, because we can't ignore the Night token if we're talking about Midnight's launch. New crypto network? Of course, there's a token, but the way Midnight handled its token distribution is worth a story on its own. In a crypto world where we see sketchy ICOs, insider allocations, and VC pre-sales all the time, Midnight took a very different path. Charles Hoskinson was practically giddy about this, highlighting that Midnight was launched with no ICO, no insiders, no VC participation. In his words, a completely decentralized, fair launch, reminiscent of how Bitcoin itself was released to the world. So, how do you launch a token fairly to the community at a massive scale? Meet the Glacier drop. This was phase 1 of the Night token distribution, and it was huge. Over 4.5 billion Night tokens were claimed by the community during the distribution events leading up to launch one of the largest token distributions in blockchain history. And it wasn't just for Cardano diehards or some small insider group. The Glacier drop was inclusive on a level we rarely see. Rather than only rewarding Cardano users or some private sale investors, Midnight's team decided to spread Night tokens across multiple major crypto communities. They essentially said thank you to the broader blockchain world by dropping tokens to people who were already participating in various ecosystems. If you were holding certain coins on a self-custody wallet around mid-2025, you might have been pleasantly surprised later with some Night tokens to claim. Who exactly was eligible for this airdrop? Here's the list of communities Midnight targeted in that first phase. The Glacier drop. Cardano, ADA. Bitcoin, BTC. Ethereum, ETH. Solana, SOL. Ripple, XRP. Binance Coin, BNB. Avalanche, AVAX. Basic Attention Token, BAT. Yes, you read that right. Even Basic Attention Token, yeah, and the token from Brave Browser, was included alongside heavyweights like B, T, C, and ETH. In other words, Midnight launched with a cross chain allocation model, distributing 100% of Night's 24 billion supply across 8 major ecosystems. This unconventional distribution structure meant that a wide array of crypto users, not just Cardano folks, got a piece of the pie from day one. The idea here is clever. By giving tokens to people on many different chains, Midnight isn't stuck as a ghost town waiting for users to show up. Instead, it's pulling users from multiple chains into a shared privacy environment. If you suddenly find you have some Night tokens because you held, say, some ETH or SOL, you might be curious, what is this Midnight thing? Maybe I should check it out. Exactly the effect they're going for. It jumpstarts the community and spreads awareness beyond the usual Cardano circles. It's almost like Midnight cast a wide net across the crypto ocean, catching interest from all over rather than isolating itself inside Cardano's pond. The Glacier drop was just the first phase. The team also ran a scavenger hunt, or scavenger mine, an event open to absolutely anyone with a basic computer and internet connection, where people could earn tokens by solving puzzles or contributing in some way. This took the inclusivity up another notch. Over 8 million addresses participated, claiming 1 billion Night in that second phase. To put that in perspective, that's an industry record number of participants for a token distribution event. Truly wild. And if you still missed out, they even planned a lost and found phase, basically a safety net to redistribute any unclaimed tokens from prior drops to those who were eligible but maybe didn't claim in time. The ethos is clear. Midnight wanted to maximize community ownership of this network. They even adjusted token allocations late in the game to funnel more tokens to these community drops and less into reserves and treasuries. The result? By launch day, tons of everyday users had already secured their Night tokens through these events, and no single entity was hoarding a massive chunk, at least from the initial distribution. When trading opened on exchanges, yes, even Binance listed Night on day one, talk about a grand entrance. It wasn't just insiders dumping on outsiders. It was a lot of regular folks finally getting liquidity for tokens they earned through participation. Of course, some sold, some bought. The usual market dance. The price was volatile. It did have an early sell-off, then a sharp recovery, and there's an ongoing redemption process as airdropped tokens thaw in scheduled periods through 2026. So, we expect the supply to increase gradually as more tokens are unlocked from the Glacier airdrop over time. What's important is how ideologically different this feels from many crypto launches. It's very much in line with Cardano's community-first philosophy. Cardano's network itself relies on stake pools run by the community, like the Cheek stake pool I mentioned among thousands of others. And now its sidechain Midnight relies on tokens distributed to the community. In Hoskinson's view, this proves that even in 2025, you can launch a crypto the way Satoshi did, fair and open, rather than handing it all to venture capitalists and hoping some trickles down to users. It's a bold experiment in token distribution, and if you participated in any of those phases, you're literally a part of crypto history in the making. Alright, we've covered what Midnight is, privacy sidechain, how it works, dual state plus ZK proofs, the fancy new tools it brings, the compact language, and how it launched, Glacier airdrop, and cross-chain extravaganza. Now comes the big question. What does this all mean for Cardano's role in the broader crypto ecosystem? Is Cardano about to go from the quiet, academic kid to the cool powerhouse that everyone wants to work with? In many ways, Midnight gives Cardano a new superpower. Picture Cardano as a hero who's always been strong in security, decentralization, and research-backed reliability, but lacked the invisibility cloak that some other heroes had. Now, with Midnight, Cardano can offer privacy and confidentiality to projects, something it couldn't do before. That's a transformative addition. It means Cardano can cater to industries and use cases that previously would have snubbed public blockchains due to privacy concerns. Think of banks, hospitals, governments, large enterprises, the other 99% of the economy that deals with sensitive data. Those players require both decentralization, blockchain's forte, and privacy compliance, blockchain's historic weakness. Midnight is Cardano's answer to that dilemma, potentially unlocking a huge new wave of adoption. Cardano's ecosystem, as of late 2025, is already on an upswing. Activity is rising, and its DeFi footprint is larger than before. Now add Midnight into the mix. As one analysis put it, Midnight adds a missing component, a privacy and compliance layer that could shift how value moves across the ecosystem. Transactions that previously had to happen in the shadows or on permissioned networks might now happen on Cardano plus Midnight out in the open, yet private. Value can move freely with privacy when needed, which might attract liquidity and users that stayed away from Cardano until now. It's not just about Cardano itself either, because Midnight is built as a chain that others can interact with. Even other blockchains, Cardano's influence could extend outward. Hoskinson emphasized that Midnight is for everyone, not just Cardano users. In fact, Midnight plans to enable hybrid dApps that work across ecosystems. For instance, you could have a dApp on Ethereum or Solana that uses Midnight in the background to handle its private data tasks, with Cardano acting as the hub connecting them. If this vision comes true, Cardano would sit at the center of a privacy-enabled multi-chain web, providing the infrastructure for secure data handling across the crypto world. That's a far cry from the old narrative of Cardano being isolated or behind other L1s. Instead, it becomes a connector and service provider to other networks. Of course, all these big possibilities come with big ifs. A lot depends on how quickly the community and developers take up Midnight's offerings. Will Cardano's existing DeFi apps integrate Midnight to offer private modes for users? Imagine a DEX on Cardano, where you could trade privately, or a lending protocol where loan details are confidential. Will bridges between Cardano and other chains see heavy use as people move assets into Midnight for privacy and then out to various chains? A surge in bridge volume would indicate that cross-chain interest is high. Will developers outside the Cardano sphere pick up the compact language and start building ZK apps on Midnight? If Midnight can attract developers from Ethereum, Solana, etc., to deploy privacy-preserving versions of their apps, that would be huge. And crucially, will the Night token distribution remain as decentralized as intended over time? If most Night ends up in a few hands, that could undermine the for everyone ethos. But if it stays widely distributed, it could become one of the more democratized Layer 1 tokens out there. These metrics will tell us if Midnight truly changes the game, or just becomes a niche sidekick. Early signs are promising. The community is vibrant. Their Discord is packed with enthusiasts. And yes, I lurk there too, learning and occasionally answering questions. Charles even noted how hundreds of ambassadors were coming online around Midnight's launch, rallying around ideals of freedom and privacy. It feels like more than just a tech launch. It's a bit of a movement, an ideological stand that privacy is a right, and we can build systems that honor that right without going off the regulatory deep end. For Cardano, having Midnight in its arsenal might also elevate its standing in the ongoing race of blockchains. Every major ecosystem is pushing some frontier. Ethereum with roll-ups and sharding, Solana with high throughput, Cosmos with interchain harmony, etc. Cardano can now flag privacy plus compliance as its breakout feature via Midnight. If you're a project that needs serious privacy, but you don't want to sacrifice public verifiability, Cardano just became a very attractive option. It's almost as if Cardano has been assembling pieces of a puzzle: smart contracts, scalability via Hydra, interoperability via sidechains, identity with Atala Prism, etc. And Midnight slots in a critical missing piece, potentially completing a picture where Cardano evolves into a comprehensive platform for all kinds of applications, from completely open ones to fully private ones, and everything in between. As we wrap up this journey, I can't help but feel a mix of excitement and caution. Excitement because Cardano with Midnight could truly be a game changer, not just for Cardano fans like me, and maybe you, but for the entire crypto industry's approach to privacy. Caution, because, well, grand visions don't always materialize exactly as planned in crypto. There will be technical challenges, perhaps regulatory hurdles, and the ever-present need to get real users and adoption. That said, Cardano has a track record of deliberate, careful progress. Midnight's phased rollout, they're calling the current phase Hilo, the first moon in a Hawaiian lunar cycle, symbolizing a new beginning, will continue through testnets and a mainnet launch in 2026. So, we might need some patience. Cardano veterans are good at that. But as Midnight develops, keep an eye on those key indicators we talked about. If you start seeing Cardano-based apps proudly advertising powered by Midnight, your data, your control, you'll know the vision is catching on. For new crypto investors tuning in, I hope this exploration sheds some light on why Cardano's Midnight upgrade is a big deal. It's more than just another token or hype cycle. It represents an evolution in how blockchains can handle privacy. It's the answer to a question that's long been asked. Can we have decentralization without putting all our information in the public eye? With Midnight, the answer seems to be inching towards yes, and that could reshape how institutions and individuals view the entire Cardano ecosystem, perhaps making it a go-to platform for the next wave of blockchain adoption where privacy is non-negotiable. As always, I encourage you to continue learning and asking questions. If some of the concepts we talked about, like zero-knowledge proofs or dual-state architecture, sound daunting, don't worry. We all start somewhere. Our free educational Discord community is a great place to dive deeper, get your questions answered, and meet others on the same learning journey. And if you're an ADA holder, excited about Cardano's future, consider supporting the network through staking, maybe even with our Cheek Stake pool, which not only helps secure Cardano, but also gives you a way to be part of this story in a small yet meaningful way. The Midnight era for Cardano is just beginning, and I, for one, am eager to see how it unfolds. Will Midnight fulfill the bold promise of a $10 billion ecosystem and bring privacy to the masses? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure. Cardano is no longer just that slow platform people underestimated. It's gearing up to be a privacy-enabling powerhouse that could leave a lot of critics biting their tongues. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive adventure. If you found value in this journey or learned something new, you know the drill. Hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more Cardano discoveries.